Hello and welcome to the News Hub. I'm Jeff Rogo. Joining us now is Ted May to talk about the latest app on your iPhone device. It's a subway app, and what it will tell you is when your New York City subway train is going to join your stop. It's a scoop that we had in today's Wall Street Journal. What is this app, and can we use it today? Is it already up?
It's already out, and this is an app that will affect subway riders on 7 of the routes in the New York City subway system out of 24 total. And what it will show you is the information that is already appearing on countdown clocks on those lines, which means the number of minutes until the next number 2 or 3 train arrives at the station. Interesting.
So given there's no subway service or cell service within the subways, that's not your best bet to use this. It actually makes more sense if am I going to have that last cup of coffee before I go to the train, those kind of situations?
Exactly. For now and until the subways are wired for cell signals and Wi-Fi, which is not expected to be completed for a few years, this is an above ground convenience. But it is a major leap forward for the MTA. There are other transit agencies around the country and around the world that have already developed systems that are like this. But New York has an older signal system that they have to keep running, and so that's one of the reasons it's limited for now to the roughly a third of the subway system where they have a more modern signal capability that can send this information out to clocks and now out to smartphones.
But this is, landmark in that this is the largest, most complicated subway system in the United States.
Yep.
And if there are other subway systems that are a little easier to navigate that don't have this, and New York is successful, we could potentially see other cities take a blueprint from this, right?
I think really it's going the other way. And that's in part because some of these other systems were built later and they're signal systems, and that's where essentially the information about where each train is, that's coming back to a central location in Washington or in San Francisco. New York was built before that technology existed, decades and decades beforehand. So really we're catching up in one respect, but it is, in terms of the number of riders, a huge step forward because there are so many more who are riding transit systems in New York City.
But while this is wonderful, like most things in New York, it doesn't come without a cost. And all of us here complain about the $2 and higher and rising subway ticket we get every day. What's the cost of this, and could there potential down the road to impact my commute each morning?
Well, the app is free, and they would tell you that this is something that is being developed within the available resources of what the MTA has now. Of course, they are scheduled to raise fares starting in the spring and again 2 years from now. The greater cost will come later if the system is going to continue to improve in ways that will broaden technology like this to cover the entire route map of the MTA's subway system. And that means essentially finding new money for capital investment in this old infrastructure, and some of that is more than 80 years old.
And as you said, they have, whether it's the Second Avenue subway or the subways themselves, they're going through a lot of major changes here across the lines, and they're just, as you said, I guess, catching up with what we see in other major cities, right?
That's right, and the scale of it is so much different in New York that just keeping the subways running, and sometimes with this very dated equipment, is such a huge job and so expensive that there's almost nothing to compare it to. They would argue there is nothing to compare it to in the United States. At the same time, they don't want to be left out of these other conveniences that you can now use in San Francisco and use in Boston, and so for about 40% of the riders, they can now use those on 7 of the lines in New York City.
Fascinating. Well, thank you so much. Now the New York tourist who's on his way is going to be able to learn a little bit more information. Thank you so much for joining us.
Very welcome.
And thank you so much for joining us as well, and have a great day.